In this video, I want to talk about how I accidentally went from an agency owner doing services to having a seven-figure education and training business. Let's get it going. Welcome back, guys. Greg here with Alt Agency at altagency.com. And look, I get asked all the time about how did I end up in the type of business that I have? Like, oh, you had an agency, you were doing these things, and now you're like coaching, training, and kind of in like an e-learning business. Looking back on it, like from where we're at now at the time of recording this, at the end of 2021 to when I got started in building my online business in 2012, things look way different. And I would have never really thought of connecting these dots. But when you look in each little transition, each little moment, you start to see how like one thing leads to the other. So at a high level, I wanted to quickly run through how I went from working at a head of mobile at a large independent retail brand to leaving, going out on my own to building a seven-figure business. I didn't do it in 90 days like a lot of gurus or whatever are promising you. It took me multiple years, obviously 2012 to now, but I want to just show you some key takeaways from my transition so that you could have one, hope, and two, start to see some clarity that it's really more about progress than it is about like having everything dialed in from like the get-go, like having all the clarity in the world right now. Like you just kind of got to get started. We're going to kind of look at a journey from 2012, now we're finishing 2021. And in this blue block here from 2012 to the end of 2014, obviously before this, I was employed. This is when I kind of started my side hustle. All of my background was in around mobile marketing, text message marketing, mobile apps. I started a blog. I started doing some independent consulting all on the side, creating a podcast that went over 150 episodes, all on this topic of mobile, just creating content, building my own name in the space. 2014, I went out on my own and it was brutal. I took my services from what I had been doing in my full-time job and brought them into my own kind of business, trying to serve smaller versions of the company that I left. And it was slow. It was a very slow go. It was a year and a half. And in middle of 2015, actually more late September 2015, I introduced a potential pivot. I started doing Infusionsoft services for online entrepreneurs. So I went from text message marketing to, hey, I've been using this tool called Infusionsoft. It's a marketing automation tool to see if I can serve a different market that I'm more passionate about. So that brings us to 2015. I got Infusionsoft certified and I started offering Infusionsoft support. And I started at as low as $200 a month. And so I went out and in 6 days, I had 7 clients ranging from $200 a month to $1,000 a month for a variety of different services because I didn't really know what I was going to be good at, what they would value. So I just got them to pay and we committed to 3-month engagements where I said I would do anything you need from an Infusionsoft perspective. That caught on and I started getting more and more clients and I had to very quickly make my first hire. And as we started doing this, we realized, well, we need to charge more. So very quickly after, we raised our prices. Shortly thereafter, we added packages and then we killed some of those packages and focused on the 80-20. We didn't offer all of the like we've turned everything into packages is what a lot of people will tell you. Well, we looked at what are the packages that we created? What are the things we love doing? What are the things that are driving the most value? And we focused on those. Again, the 80-20. Then we decided to sell packages, a front-end offer into a back-end ongoing continuity program. So we had packages that ranged from 10 to 15K that led into a 1,500 to 3K a month retainer. And if you're doing services, by the way, I highly recommend that you have a front-end offer. I have other videos on the channel about this and why you shouldn't just jump into monthly recurring revenue. But that's what we did. And so that brings us to 2017, where we still right in here, but in February, we launched something. We launched a 20-person cohort. And this is where we actually productized our consulting. We had been building webinar funnels, both live and evergreen, for a lot of people. And a lot of people couldn't afford us. So I said, hey, what if I teach you and just give you the campaigns, how to set it up yourself? So I'll guide you through the process. So kind of like a course plus coaching. I packaged up my intellectual property and we took on 2 to 3 cohorts from February 2017 to the end of 2018. And we focused on course creators because that's who we were working with at the time. We had clients like John Lee Dumas, Jasmine Starr, Chris Ducker, Nerd Fitness, all that were selling courses, coaching, consulting, things like that. In the kind of middle of the second cohort slash third cohort, we kind of made a pivot and we incorporated, instead of course creators, some service providers. And this was one of those accidental shifts where I saw a bunch of other service providers, specialists like myself, funnel builder, automation builder, like, hey, I see what you're doing. Can you show us how to do it? Can you like help me build automation for my own business? And I said, yeah, sure. Hop on into this program. I'm teaching a bunch of people how to build a webinar funnel to sell their stuff. Why don't you come in? So they came into the cohort. And very quickly, when I had some course creators and some service providers, I realized something. Course creators sell from landing pages and webinars. Most service providers sell from the phone. Those are two different types of funnels. And so I needed to add that training to this new cohort to start supporting them. Now, by far and away, the impact that the service providers got was way greater and more fulfilling personally, because I was a service provider, when they got results versus the course creators. So at that point, I drew a line in the sand and say, hey, we're going to focus on building out these systems for service providers, not course creators. And I'm going to transition out of done for you and eventually do all work for service providers, because I'm just more passionate about those people, because that's my background. December 2017, we hit our first 6-figure month, and that revenue was all from the cohort we were selling. The first cohort we did at 2K, and then we very quickly went up to 5,500. So we go into 2018, and we make an announcement that we're no longer going to be doing done for you. And we started the transition into only working with kind of the high ticket consulting, coaching, info, e-learning, whatever you want to call it. That's what we were doing. It took us about 1.5 years to phase out of the clients that we had been working with. Some left very quickly when we made the announcement, and others we didn't want to burn bridges. So we kept like a 6 to 8 month transition plan to maintain those relationships and help them out. We kind of had a balancing act, which I highly recommend you do as well. And then in 2020, we rebranded because we were a company called Systemly at the time. Some of you have been following me long enough to know that. But we rebranded in 2020. We hit our first 7-figure year, and this is 2021. We did that in about 9 to 10 months. And 2021 and beyond, I put here as kind of a question mark, as I think we're going to double. We have the opportunity to double here. This 2020 to 2021, we learned a lot of operational challenges. But the big jump from here to here was where we went from, done for you one-on-one. And we started adding in 2018, one to small group. We became less of service provider to what is kind of the beginning of a media. And now we're kind of taking the next leap up again. When I look at it from this perspective of like, wow, I was doing mobile over here, and now we're kind of e-learning on, business systems and automation and growth for service providers, it feels so far. But like in all of these little shifts, one thing led to the other. One solution led to the next problem, which led to the next solution. And we kept building off of it. So my key takeaways for you are this. 1, you can reinvent yourself at any time. I was the mobile guy for a really long time. And in 6 months, I was the funnel guy. And now we're the agency trainers. If you're like, oh my God, I have this decade of experience and I'm considering turning my back on it, it might be the best decision you ever make. It's going to be hard. It took me 6 months to decide to let go of being the mobile guy and move on from a decade of experience and knowledge. It was scary, 100%. But if I can do it, you can do it. 2, building a dream business takes more than 90 days. I think a lot of people are out there selling like 6-week courses, and yeah, you're going to get some traction. You're going to probably install a couple things, but probably not all the pieces that make up the puzzle that are going to allow you to get to this dream business, which I actually just talked about in last week's video. I'll link to that in the description. The next thing is I want you to look at your service or your offering as a living, breathing object. When you look at kind of the world we're in right now, the subscription economy, something like a Netflix, when Netflix creates a new show, that piece of content also works for attraction. Like, oh, that new show, that might bring people to Netflix. But it also simultaneously is keeping people on Netflix. Oh, the person who they're about to be dormant in their subscription. They haven't really watched any shows. Now all of a sudden there's this new show available. Now they're going to stay for another handful of months. And so Netflix, all these subscription-based businesses, membership-based businesses, you are always doing things to have peaks and valleys inside of your client experience. And if you're a service provider, I don't think it should be looked at as any different. You don't just create one service and it lives on forever. You're going to be making little improvements. And in fact, that leads me to my next point, which is if you just keep making 1% improvements over time, it kind of looks like this laundry list of moves. And again, over time, you see a really nice trajectory of, from where you started to where you are now. And I think you're going to be pretty pleased. And lastly, my key takeaway for you, if you're, an agency owner, you're doing done for you services, is be on the lookout for level 10 opportunities. I learned of this kind of concept from Alex Hormozy. I'll link up his channel in the description below as well. Right here where we were, doing one-on-one, building funnels for people, that business could get to 7 figures for sure. We were very close, but it wasn't as profitable and required a whole lot more people. In today's world with media, with the opportunities for software and using the ability to package your intellectual property, licensing, there are things that could allow you to help way more people if you hop on to a different delivery model, which Alex talks about a level 10 opportunity. Instead of us just helping service providers one-on-one, why don't I show as many service providers what we did? Because that'll have a larger impact on not only the people we can help, but then the people that they can help. And so together, the ripple in the water gets way larger if we just take on a bigger opportunity than the one we're in right now. And as a service provider, my friend, it sounds, in some ways I can get it. I feel like, oh, that's a cop out. You went from doing a thing to teaching a thing, but we get to help so many more people by teaching as well and showing them how to do stuff. So instead of everything done for you being custom, we have systems and repeatability and predictability, and we're helping a whole lot more people and having a whole lot more fun. And I know a lot of our clients have said the same thing. I now have a business I love. I've fallen back in love with my craft. So I think those are other byproducts of going from a level 2 or 3 opportunity, which is what you're in right now, doing done for you services, sometimes like an employee, to a level 10 opportunity where you can impact a whole lot more people through a different delivery vehicle. So if that sounds really interesting, I put together a free training. I'll link it up in the description. The 4-step process that we went through from the level 2 opportunity to the level 10 opportunity, and built this process by accident. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.